Have you ever tried to communicate what you're doing and you were met with a blank stare, or like even worse, a rapid fire game of like defensive 20 questions, like not even the good game of 20 questions, like the defensive kind?
Yeah.
Like whether it's a new diet or like a career change, or maybe this is a good one. Maybe somebody's made a false comparison to something else.
Oh, like when we tried to start a furniture business and everybody and their mom was like, oh, do you sell stuff on Etsy?
Oh, so you must have an Etsy page. So you guys do Etsy. That's what you
That's
do.
it. You can't do any other type of furniture business. It's only Etsy.
Yeah.
Nothing else exists.
Anyways, we'll dive into why all that happened and stuff. But today we're going to cover how to respond in these situations in a way that's helpful, but also doesn't hurt your dreams or leave you discouraged.
Ooh, it's a big challenge.
Buckle up.
Roll the intro. Welcome to the Let's Quit podcast.
Quitting is not always a bad thing.
If you have the right mindset, quitting can be the most powerful tool you have on your journey to success. It's certainly been helpful for us.
Whether it's flying through hurricanes, building our businesses, or just trying to get to bed on time, we're always trying to level up and improve our lives.
This is the show where we share the lessons, experiences, and friends that have helped us live this incredible life. So let's quit the bad and grow the good together. All right, episode 6 already. Jeez.
I know.
Well, thank you so much for being here and listening again. Or if this is your first time listening, we want to welcome you. If this is your first podcast from us, hey, how's it going? We're Jennie and Davis. Yeah, we would love to hear a review of the show. You've been listening for a little while, or even if you don't normally write reviews, we would love a review on the podcasting app of your choice. Apple Podcasts is a great one if you're looking for one to review us on. Just helps more people find the show, and yeah.
Or share the show with somebody else. If you have a friend who really
yes.
enjoys podcasts, they're a quote unquote podcaster, or even if they're not.
If you think that our ramblings could help somebody else out, we'd really appreciate it if you could share the show with them, and we would be forever in your debt.
Sounds very medieval.
Yeah, a little bit.
Anyways, so let's jump into story time. What have we been up to this week?
Well, we finally listed our coffee tables for sale. For those that don't know, we have a furniture business here in the Houston area, and we finally got our first table like large furniture product published to our store, and that's going to be a farmhouse coffee table. It's a really classy design. SmartTableCo.com if you're interested.
Yes,
quick plug there.
SmartTableCo.com.
But we finally got good pictures of our prototype, and those are up listed on the store. They're not perfect. It's enough to get going.
And they were I thought that they were good pictures to like outline all of our options, because we do have a couple of different like color combinations and like wood colors that people can do. So I feel like we appropriately outlined that also. Like I feel like all of the pictures for all of the combinations look pretty good. So I'm satisfied.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's been, I don't know, the main thing this week is we haven't got any orders yet. I mean, I guess that's kind of important to say, but we're excited.
On the tables anyways, yeah.
This means that we can now go forward with our business plan of approaching real estate agents. Anybody that does some sort of corporate gift, we can sell personalized, engraved gifts, cutting boards and charcuterie boards to people. And then when they open the box, they'll see our flyer for all the other furniture that we make. So
yep. So it feels good to finally like have our model ironed out to the point where we can actually like put into practice everything we've been wanting to for like the last year.
I'm really excited. The only thing that's standing in the way of us now is sales, which is like an unsolvable monster for me. Even though we've done it before and we'll do it again, just for whatever reason, my brain is not wired to do sales. I get really weird and
well, I think a lot of people do, which is why we have our channel to show like, hey, everybody, or at least like 90% of the population probably feels really weird about sales.
Yeah. I just think that like we do too much in the YouTube videos. I think we hide it too much of how much it's actually a big freaking deal, at least for me. I don't know about you, but like it legitimately terrifies me, especially if I haven't done it in a long time.
I don't think it legitimately terrifies me. I just think I need a lot of time to spend up front to like craft the correct thing to say. But once I feel like I have the correct like words to say and I've kind of thought ahead of like possible responses, then I'm good to go. But like actually hitting like that send button, it just takes me way too long. Way too long. So that's my like roadblock, I guess.
I just work myself up into a tizzy, and I don't even know what I'm scared of. I try to do the growth mindset thing of like, okay, well, play out what would happen if you were scared and your worst dream came true. Nothing happens. Somebody says, no, I don't want to buy any, goodbye. And that's the end of it. Yeah. There is no fears are weird, man. You don't even need to be afraid of anything to be afraid. It's stupid.
Yeah.
Sometimes I hate being a human. I wish I could be a robot.
That would be, but
I don't mean
so
that.
Sad and cold. And
I don't actually mean that. I'm not Steve Aoki. I don't actually want to be a cyborg. Go Google a YouTube interview of Steve Aoki, the DJ or whatever.
Yeah.
He's sold out to that kind of biometric stuff. Anyway.
Interesting.
This is what a podcast is for, is we can go down those rabbit holes.
I know, and jump out of the rabbit hole. And we're back. What else have we done this week? So this last week was Christmas, and
we've been eating a lot of leftovers.
Yes, the leftovers are like almost gone. But we've been eating a ton of leftovers, and a little I don't even know if we can call it a tradition because this is only our second year doing it.
It's a tradition. It's happening again.
Yes, so we call it Cracker Barrel Christmas. If you guys didn't know, Cracker Barrel does they'll basically make your entire Christmas dinner. You order it ahead of time. You can pick all the sides you want, and then you go pick it up before Christmas, and you just literally pop everything in the oven to heat it up. And you're good to go. You've got your Christmas dinner.
Cracker Barrel did this before it was cool.
Yes. So our first time doing it was last year before COVID hit, and that was the thing to order out all your food. And so I went to pick up our dinner, and there was only 2 other people in line with me. So it wasn't super popular. And now this year, the prices went up, and it was so popular. They're like, hey, we have a limited number of dinners, and once we sell out, we sell out. Maybe you could get put on a waiting list.
And it wasn't even as much food as it was last year.
Yeah, you could. I mean.
We're done with our leftovers, and last year it took us a week and a half, and we ended up throwing some stuff out because it went bad.
COVID really, brought in a ton of money for the Cracker Barrel Christmas industry this year.
Big Cracker Barrel?
Yes, Big Cracker Barrel. Anyways,
it's a conspiracy.
It was really good. So we had a good time, and our tradition is we have a dog. We have a Doberman. His name is Bruce. If you watch our YouTube channel, you'll see him make little cameos every now and again, but he loves the Christmas ham. And that's his treat every Christmas. We throw him a couple of pieces of the Christmas ham,
and we give him the bone too.
We give him the bone to kind of chew on, and so he enjoys Cracker Barrel Christmas too.
Yeah, we do too. What size did we get this year? We got it comes with ham, stuffing, gravy, rolls.
And that's what it comes with.
And then you get to pick for the smaller one, which is what we got because it's just us. We got a choice of 2 sides, and we got hash brown casserole.
That's a must. It might as well just come with hash brown casserole, because if you don't do hash brown casserole as one of your sides, I don't really think you're sold out to Cracker Barrel.
Cracker Barrel hash brown casserole slaps.
Yes.
Try it next time you're there, when you're there with your grandparents.
Oh my gosh. Hands down, it's so good.
But what else did we get? We got that, and then
you wanted mac and cheese. So we got mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese, it's easy to make,
but it's hard to get the consistency and everything right.
Right. It's not. I don't know. It's easy to do. It's hard to do well. And
cheese is kind of expensive. You need a lot of cheese for macaroni and cheese.
Well, it depends. If you make a good bechamel base, and then you can just throw in half a block of cheese or something.
If you make a good bechamel base.
Anyway, I'm serious about my mac and cheese over here.
Yes, he is. But then we made some of our own sides. We made our own green bean casserole because I think Davis would explode if he didn't have any. I hate
Cracker Barrel's green bean casserole. Their green beans are fine if you're in the restaurant or whatever, but their green bean casserole, I was highly disappointed last year. So I took matters into my own hands. The key is you got to blanch your green beans first. You can't just throw it in the pot with the cream of mushroom soup and French fried onions. You gotta do it yourself. And then we cut up our own mushrooms. Put in our own mushrooms, so it had a much better mushroom taste than just what's in the Campbell soup can.
Yep. It turned out good.
It turned out really good.
And then we made mashed potatoes to go with the gravy that they gave us.
Yeah. Those are good mashed potatoes, too. Yeah. Use Yukon Gold potatoes for anybody.
We'll be starting our next podcast. It's quit going out to dinner and cook all your own food. No, I'm just kidding.
We've been watching a lot of cooking YouTube. I think everybody has during quarantine, so that's been fun. But yeah, so we had Cracker Barrel Christmas this week, and I think we're finally done with the leftovers. I think we can finally
start cooking something else besides ham and potatoes and green bean casserole, which, not complaining, I don't mind having that in the fridge at all times.
Right.
But
tonight's steak night. I'm excited.
Steak night.
Steak night.
Yes, we got steak night from Bruce A. Ulrich. If you guys follow him, he's another woodworker.
Oh, hey, look, I'm wearing his shirt.
You go blind when you're wearing the shirt all day. I forget which one you're wearing, but yes, he's wearing his Bruce A. Ulrich T-shirt today. But we went and visited Bruce a while back. And
I'll text you tonight, Bruce.
Yeah,
I'll text you a picture.
Him and his wife always do steak nights like once a week or something like that. And so we visited them on steak night, and we're like, guys, this is such a good idea. Like, it's after the kids go to bed, and they just have this nice dinner, and we played games, have a glass of wine, and it's basically we have a good time when we go to Bruce's place. And so we're like, that's such a good idea. So we started incorporating more steak nights into our lives as well, just as like a little treat.
Well, it's easy now that we have Butcher Box. This is not sponsored. I wish it was. I really hope one day we can get them on as a sponsor.
We should reach out to them and ask if they want to sponsor the podcast, because we legitimately have all good things to say about them.
Or a few YouTube videos. Anyway, so we signed up for Butcher Box. We fell prey to the marketing, and we ordered a box, and it's kind of expensive, but man, it's good quality meat. It tastes great.
Absolutely.
I think Jenny's right. I think we're going to reach out to them to see if they can sponsor us, because we really like their product. And anyway, they send us steaks every month, and so part of the subscription is you get a couple steaks. So steak night is easy now that the steaks are shipped to our front door.
Yes. Thank you, Bruce, and thank you, ButcherBox.
Yeah, free sponsorship deal right there. So nobody buy it yet. No, don't sign up for ButcherBox. Wait for us to get a sponsorship, then sign up for it. We'll get you free bacon for life or something crazy like that.
Or an 11-pound turkey. That was the first thing we got free from ButcherBox.
You're selling it too hard. Stop selling it.
I have to stop my one-liners and wait until we get the sponsorship.
Okay. Stop selling it. Okay, moving on.
Maybe we'll edit that out.
This week we published a video on our shop tour. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, we haven't done a shop tour in a little over a year. I think I looked back at the past YouTube video or blog post or whatever, and I think it was October of last year.
Yeah. A lot's changed in that year. We talk about that in the video, of course, but we've completely changed our business model since last year when we set up shop.
Yep.
So,
because I think at that point we were just trying really hard to just move in and just get all our stuff dumped into the garage, and we knew we wanted to become a production shop and focus more on efficiency and stuff.
But not really. We hadn't crystallized the idea yet.
Yes, and that was the thing. So we put everything where we thought it should go, which was a good call, because there are some things we haven't moved since, but not many.
Well, I mean, we'll get into that in a minute with story time. We got another segment on that, but we built new workbenches because it was better for us. We realized that we needed 2 workbenches in the garage instead of one giant one. So we built 2 smaller ones, cannibalized the old one. They turned out really, really nice, super sturdy.
Yep, they're a similar design to the large one we had, so that it was something we were still used to using every day. But now we just have room to walk through the middle of our shop back and forth.
Which we didn't before.
Unless you wanted to hop over the table. We've done that a few times too. But we're just really focused on, I guess, it's more so because we have our processes figured out. We know how we make cutting boards. We know how we batch out serving boards. Now we know how we make coffee tables. We're like, hey, the most efficient thing is if we could just chop this entire table in half.
Right. And we also ordered, we talked in the video too, we got one of those little Rubbermaid plastic carts, like a janitor supply cart almost. We got one of those, so that'll be really helpful moving multiple pieces across the shop from one end to the other, because we have a lot of processes where, and we were doing this the other day with some charcuterie boards, where we do a single operation on 20 pieces of wood, and they all look identical. And you can turn around and grab it off the table, but how many times are you gonna do that till your back starts hurting?
Right, and you need to take it in loads almost. Take 15 boards at a time from one table to the next, or from the miter saw to the joiner or the bandsaw, and it's not that far, but when you're trying to stay controlled and carry 15 heavy boards at a time, I don't know, that starts to weigh on you, I feel like. Yeah,
so we got one of those carts to help out with that, just to save our future backs. And our employees' backs too. We don't want them working too hard either. So, so that'll be exciting. Still hasn't showed up yet. I'm excited.
Yeah, not yet. Mail's been kind of slow.
Well, it's after Christmas, and I think they're still backlogged and everything. But
I heard on the East Coast with the big winter storm, they're backed up too.
Yeah, I heard that. But also another thing that was like really crazy from this video was we added up the amount of money we've spent on tools. This is kind of an afterthought.
Yes.
We'd already edited the video and we're starting to brainstorm ideas for the title and thumbnail. And instead of just doing the regular like shop tour, which shop tour videos on YouTube do really, really well.
Yeah. So we were like, let's just call it a shop tour. That's what we were going to do.
But, we're trying different clickbait strategies and stuff like that. And we decided that throwing the price of how much we've spent on all of our tools in the title would be a really good idea. I don't know, but by the time you're listening to this, you'll
already know.
You'll know if it's a good idea or not. But right now we don't know because the video's not published. But
right.
Anyway, so I just went through with my little phone calculator, and I didn't get down to the penny, but like I went through the whole garage and the whole laser room and added up from what I can remember, the price of all the tools, and like, $50 here, $100 here for stuff on the wall or stuff in a drawer that I don't remember how much we paid for, but I have a pretty good sense of how much everything costs. And we totaled it up. It was like $26,000 worth of tools. It was insane.
I don't know why we haven't really totaled that up for ourselves before.
Because it's $26,000 worth of tools.
And we have this thing that we always say is like focus on money coming in, not on money going out. That's like a big topic we touch on in the stud stack all the time for people that are like, well, I'm scared to invest all this money into my business right away. And we talk about, buying things that will make you money rather than buying things that'll cost you money. And anyways.
Right. For those that have never heard it, real quick, the explanation on that is like focus on the money coming in. So focus on making sales and stuff like that. Because with a business, if you can control the amount of money coming in, it doesn't really matter how much money is going out. As long as you have more money coming in than more money going out. So we tell people to focus your time, effort, and energy on bringing sales into the business instead of worrying about,
nickel and diming your budget.
Right. Trying to save money somewhere else. So that's what we mean by that.
I think that's why we haven't necessarily totaled up how much it all costs, because we're so focused on like how much money is, this tool going to make us? How much faster can we make twice the amount of cutting boards with this tool? But man, to like total it up, 26.
Yeah, it was quite a bit more than I was expecting. I don't know, like I had maybe thought, 10, 15 grand or so, but I didn't really total it up. Well, so that goes in our next point. Like the story of our woodworking business, it didn't start out as a business. When we first moved up to North Dakota together, we lived in an apartment and just to stay busy. Well, so Jennie and I had like really demanding jobs in the Air Force. We were working, Jennie was working 60 hours a week every week. I was working at least 80 hours a week, which sounds ridiculous, but I was doing like 36-hour shifts, like 36 on 36
and off. Like you would stay out for the night.
Right. And so, anyway, long story short, like we were just trying to stay busy. So we started building furniture. It was kind of easy. We needed a bed frame. So we built a bed frame out of 2x4s.
We needed a coffee table that we didn't want to spend $600 on.
I had never done woodworking. I watched my dad doing it growing up, but I'm kicking myself for never learning or asking to be taught. But anyway, so I just started like remembering what my dad would use and what he would do. And of course, YouTube at that time, I was watching a lot of woodworking YouTube. Didn't even have, specifically did not want to start a woodworking channel because we'd build stuff and I would think, man, it would take twice as long to build that if I was filming the whole thing.
And it's so funny because we said that so many times in the beginning. We're like, man, it must take these guys like 3 times as long to build this table. We did it in like 2 days.
And then we got the bright idea to start a YouTube channel.
I know. And here we are, right?
It all worked out, I guess, maybe. I don't know. I haven't seen $26,000 worth of AdSense money come my way. So that's a little, I don't know.
Yeah.
We're playing the long game. That's what I'll tell myself. We're playing the long game. Maybe we'll see that money.
But so we started in building stuff for fun or just building stuff because we needed it in a garage that was separated from an apartment that we lived in. And honestly, at the time, we were lucky we had a garage at that apartment complex. And I think mostly because North Dakota gets such bad winters, like you almost have to give people an option to like put their car away or like a carport or something.
Right. Well, it wasn't insulated. That was another thing. It wasn't insulated, so we couldn't do stuff in the wintertime. But then we bought a house. And we moved into the house once we found out that you were going to be stationed up there with me, which is a nice perk.
I didn't have to live separate for 2 years plus.
And so we bought a house and we moved in and we insulated the garage and we started doing stuff there. And at that point, it was just, let's build furniture for the house. It wasn't like, let's start a business, let's make money. And then about halfway through, I started getting I don't know, pretty good at the building part of it. I was building stuff pretty fast, and I thought, what the heck? Why don't we just make a few videos for YouTube? So we, just started filming. I still had a little like video camera that I had used in California with my buddy that had a video production company. So I just started filming the builds, and we started making YouTube videos just because I was bored and I wanted something to do. I want to get better at video editing, so I started making videos for YouTube, and then we posted a couple of videos just trying to get views on YouTube, just a couple of views. Because so you used to refinish furniture in college.
Yeah. So I don't know. Growing up, I've always been kind of crafty. I love DIY stuff. I mean, my mom could tell you I would make so many different crafts and they would just lay all around the house. And then I got into refinishing furniture because I'd get on Pinterest and see all this cute stuff. And I'd see everybody was refinishing. I was like, oh, why couldn't I do that? So I'd go to all the thrift stores and Goodwill and pick up dressers and end tables and nightstands and all that kind of stuff.
And you made a little bit of money too.
Yeah, so I'd try to like sell them in shops downtown. I'd go talk to certain people that would like resell other refurbished furniture, and I was like,
Consignment.
why can't? Yeah, consignment. I was like, why can't this be my stuff? And so that was fun. And so I enjoyed the woodworking also because I had kind of dabbled in things that were kind of similar to it, but yeah, really popped off in North Dakota, and so we just tried making videos about like random making stuff, and we'd include some of the furniture I refinished, and I don't know, we were just trying different avenues to see what worked at that point.
Right. And so the title that I randomly chose for this piece of furniture that you like repainted and refinished was like make money with woodworking or something like that, because you had made money selling furniture like that, just buying it from Goodwill, refinishing it, and then selling it on Facebook Marketplace or consignment or whatever. And we just made that the title of the video, and the video popped up. Now granted, we were less than 500 subscribers at this point.
Yeah.
So like a 300 views on a video was a big freaking deal to us.
That was popping off for us right there, guys.
Right. So when we saw that this video was getting like over 1,000 views, we're like, oh no, we did something.
Struck gold.
So then we pivoted. So at that point, this is where it's all sort of coming together. Like at that same moment, we were also starting to take on jobs from our friends. We had built everything we wanted for our house, and people started asking us to build things. Well, it got to the point where we had such limited time, right? We were working too much, and I had to raise prices because I didn't have enough free time to handle everybody's orders. So I was like, well, to get rid of some of these orders, I'm just going to start raising the price because some of these people
sacrifice more of your free time.
Right, because some of these people, like, they just, like, I could just tell, I love some of these friends, but, like, I could tell that, like, they just wanted something for cheap that was really cool. They didn't actually want to support us. And so I just raised prices. Well, almost nobody canceled their order. I was wrong. I got totally shocked. These people like actually wanted to support us and help us out and pay us money. So I kind of feel guilty for, thinking that. But we realized very quickly that we could start to make some money with what we were doing here. So that was the same time we made that random YouTube video. So we just decided to pivot all of our content towards what we were learning as we were selling furniture to our friends and people that we knew in the community up there in North Dakota. Well, then our channel exploded. And for a very short 2-week period, we were making more money from furniture sales than we were from both of us being in the Air Force.
Yes.
And that was the day the light bulb turned on.
Well, that was shocking for us because our actual full-time Air Force income we thought was the end all be all. Of course nothing could beat that. That's full-time income. No, building a few things in our garage is not going to surpass
right. So
our
then
paychecks.
I started seeing that hey, 25, 30 hours a week, this little woodworking business is making us more money than the military. Hey, we're on to something.
Whoa, yeah.
So we, at that, again, it's a crazy story, but at that same time, we started noticing that our dream job was hiring part-time positions and that we were both qualified for it. And so we applied, got the jobs, we moved down to Mississippi. Anyway, crazy story. We're super blessed to be in the position we're in, but we were trying to tell everybody what we were trying to do. We were trying, and this is segueing into the title topic, but we tried to share what we were doing with other people. Hey, see how much money we're making. Everybody likes our stuff, and we're building stuff. And so I would start to ask for days off so I could start building stuff. And so I would use vacation days to catch up on these orders and stuff. Yep. Everybody's done this. If you're any kind of entrepreneur, you know what I'm talking about. You take a little bit of time off to help your side hustle. But very quickly, I was met with a lot of, I don't want to say animosity, but I was getting the blank stare. I was explaining
Yes, that's a good way to put it. It's like they're not super angry at you, but they kind of are, but they also just don't get it.
Right, because one of my bosses, because in the military you have 10,000 bosses. One of my bosses, when I was asking for time off, one of my bosses was like, "So what are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm taking vacation days. I have to take them. And I'm going to catch up on some orders here. So I'm not leaving the local area. If you need me for anything, like I'll be here, but like don't bother me the next week
and
or so."
Like vacation days that you earn that like... Anyways.
Anyway, military culture. But, it was, we put in this bid for this restaurant. So this restaurant was going to open up.
That's what it was.
So I took vacation days to like finalize this proposal for this restaurant build out. And nobody understood what I was saying. Like, it was just like, it wasn't making it past people's face. They weren't. Blank stares was all I was getting. I don't know how much people were understanding that, like, hey, we were legit putting in a $20,000 contract offer to build out a restaurant with tables and chairs and all the rest.
And bars and yeah.
And bars, yeah. Anyway, it didn't go through, but we learned a lot through that process. But we very quickly got to the point where nobody was understanding what we were doing anymore. Mm-hmm. People could understand it when we were selling tables here and there, but once we started actually making money and talking to real estate agents in the local area and selling stuff for houses they were finishing, like we made a big rolling barn door.
Yep, getting our stuff put in magazines and newspapers and like local community stuff.
That was just so far outside of all the people that we knew. It was outside their comfort zone. They didn't understand it.
So it's almost to the point where it's like, yeah, man, I'm going on a big camping trip. I'm going on vacation with my family. Like, oh, okay.
And I mean, at a certain point, we did start having to like stretch the truth a little bit on like why we were taking time off or like why we needed a certain day off so we could deliver furniture. Of course, like we never violated our responsibilities. We were still good employees. We're still good, like.
Oh, absolutely.
Anyway, it's just office politics kind of stuff. But very quickly, we were faced with a bunch of people that were in control of our lives to some extent that did not understand what we were doing or what we were trying to do. And at that point, we sort of needed them to understand so that we could get what we wanted, which was time off, which was moving our schedules around, which was, you know what I'm saying?
Like switching shifts with people. And I think that's kind of like large scale, people not understanding what you're doing. But like, I feel like it even happens small scale too. Like you're just excited about something going on in your life. You're excited about starting something new. So naturally you talk to people. That's like what comes up in conversation with friends or family. You're trying to explain this really cool thing you're doing and you're like expecting them to understand or get excited. And sometimes they're just like, or like the conversation will just flop.
Yeah. Well,
like, get excited with me.
So this is the title topic. This is what we're diving into. That story kind of segued perfectly into it. It's almost like we planned it.
Oh, yeah, totally. Nah, we're naturally good conversationalists, and this comes perfect to us. Gosh. Two scientist nerds are great at speaking.
All right, so getting into the title topic, Jennie, why don't you hit him with the quote before we get back into what we were talking about?
Yes. So our quote for this week is, "We are only capable of living up to the image we create for ourselves." And that is by David Goggins.
That's a good one.
Yes, very good one. If you have not heard of his book, Can't Hurt Me, we highly recommend it.
Highly recommended.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so the title topic, trying to get everyone to understand. We were spending a ton of time, effort, and energy trying to get the people around us to understand what we were doing with the YouTube channel, with the woodworking business. Like it was so different from what everybody else was doing. And different isn't always good. I want to qualify that. Like just because you're different from everybody does not mean that it's good.
There was that meme I saw. It was like, it was a hammer, but instead they made the hammer head out of wood and the hammer out of metal. And it's like, just because you're different doesn't mean you're useful. And
oh my gosh.
So hard.
But that's so true though. Like some people like get off on the fact that like they're being so different and that's such a novel idea. Like just because you're a special snowflake doesn't mean that you're a better snowflake.
Oh, that's funny.
Quit trying to get people to understand. Like it's a losing game, and that's what we had to come to grips with. So we're going to kind of walk you through sort of how we discovered this and what we do now when people don't quite understand what we're doing. So I think we're all on the same page. Like when you're excited about doing something, when you're in a new chapter in life or you're trying to start something new, you want to share that with your friends and family because you want their support. You want them to like, I don't know, you just want to like it. Like you just want to communicate with the people around you and you want to talk about your life. So it's not that far-fetched to think that you want to tell everybody like your next big thing or your next big goal. But when you start to get the blank stares or people don't understand or they make a false comparison to something that's not at all what you're trying to, again with the furniture business.
Frustrating.
We have loving friends and family that just don't understand what we're trying to do. And they think that what we're trying to do is what they see on Etsy. They think that we're trying to be Etsy people or Etsy sellers. Nothing against people on Etsy. We got a lot of friends that do that. Got a lot of people in the stud stack that do that. But that's not what we're trying to do. And it would take an hour's worth of explaining to get them to understand what we're doing. And what we're here to tell you is like, it's not worth it, number one. And number two, like, let's look a little deeper. You're trying to do that because you're seeking approval or permission from somebody else to do that thing.
Yeah.
And I know, like, at least when I first heard this, I pushed against it so hard. I was like, no, not me. I don't need anybody's permission. I'm my own person. I don't need, no, like.
Everybody does it to an extent. You want people to be proud of you.
But when you start to unpack it, you start to realize that that's really where it's coming from. It's like, I just want the warm and fuzzy feeling that my friends and family think that what I'm doing is cool.
And they're on board with it, kind of a deal.
Right. I mean, that's why you're sharing it. Like, and I don't think that that's all bad. You should want that from your friends and family. Now, you shouldn't need that. You shouldn't pressure your friends and family to the point that you're like irritating them because you're demanding that they like you and like your stuff that you're doing. Like, that's where it gets kind of toxic. But at the same time, like, you need a little bit of that. But if it's to the point where your hopes and spirits are being crushed because the people around you don't understand what you're doing, that's when it's a problem. That's when you need to step in and either reframe it for yourself or find better people to surround yourself with.
Once you start expecting that like approval or like proudness from other people, you're asking them to boost your self-confidence. And then if you're doing that too much or too often, you're now burdening that person because that lack of self-confidence in yourself means you're gonna need to get it from another source, which is those other people. And that's putting a burden on those other people to provide your self-confidence that you can't provide for yourself. So not only are they working really hard to keep their own personal self-confidence up, they now have to work double time to keep your self-confidence
Which
up.
is why everybody gets weird because they don't want to be the babysitter to your self-confidence.
Right.
Wow.
And people kind of like see that. They're like, ooh, I feel like nobody wants extra work, right? Like we're all not lazy, but like you're not going to take on extra work if you don't have to.
It's like that person at work that like, I'm just coming up with an archetype here. Like it's that person at work that like they do really good work, but they're just not confident about it. And everybody around them in the office has to like pat them on the back and say, "Good job, Sally." Sorry if your name's Sally. Everybody's got to like pat you on the back, even though you do great work, but everybody else has to babysit your emotional state to give you self-confidence to keep doing the really good work. And people get sick of it.
You have a great product, but man, producing that product is exhausting for not only you, but everybody.
Right. So I think just being conscious of that and understanding that like that's where it comes from, of like wanting people to understand and get you and be on board with your ideas, comes from that lack of self-confidence. Then you can go to work at the root of the problem, which is a lack of self-confidence, instead of like, how do I get people to understand what I'm doing better? Because that's not actually solving the problem. That's the symptom of the problem. Right.
Yeah. And I feel like once you realize that you're putting that burden on everybody else, like, I don't know. When I first realized this, I felt guilty, like instantly. I was like, really? I caused pain and work for other people?
Yeah.
Because I couldn't like keep my stuff together? Like, oh man, I felt so guilty. I was like, I almost want to apologize to these people for like, you know, and that would be going a little too far, obviously. But you know what I mean, is like once you take responsibility for that and you're like self-aware enough to see that's what you're doing, I don't know. My fuel was like guilt for making other people go through that, I guess.
Yeah. And I don't even think that sometimes it doesn't even come from a lack of self-confidence. Sometimes it comes from like, you just genuinely want to help the other person. And if they can understand what you're going through, it would help them as well. So I don't necessarily think it's all like egocentric. I think that some of it could be like, you're just trying to help somebody else out. And good luck if you run into somebody as stubborn as us. Like, we're not going to listen. It just, some people, like, you know, like a 5-year-old kid trying to tie their shoes. Like if they try to tie their shoes and you're like, hey man, there's a better way. It's like, no, there's not. My way is the best way. I can do this myself. It's like, all right, dude, go for it. See how many times you trip over your shoelaces.
And that can get frustrating for you too, because you're like, I have the missing information that you need. I can help you. Let me. And that person's like just not having it. I mean, that's going to crush your spirits and hurt you too.
It's just a waste of time. Like you can't, I'm sorry. You just can't help that person.
Because then you're going to misinterpret them not wanting your information as you're not giving it well enough.
Mm-hmm.
Which is probably not the case.
Right. Or they take your advice, they do it poorly, and then they blame you for giving them the advice in the first. So we're here to tell you that everyone is stuck in their ways and you can't help anybody ever. That's basically the
So be
conclusion of the podcast.
self-obsessed and just just kidding.
No, but you gotta be aware of these things. You gotta know. You gotta ask yourself, like, hey, am I asking too much from other people, or am I expecting to help somebody who doesn't want help or isn't going to take help? And that can be really hard. Like, that's the role of the parent, is like, where do you draw, we're not parents, but like the goal of parenting is like ride that line of like, how much do I let them learn on their own versus how much do I protect them from themselves?
Because if you overprotect, that's got obviously some pretty big consequences. If you underprotect, that's got consequences as well.
It's a tough balance. I'm not like, we're not even parents. Even if we were, I wouldn't be sitting here trying to tell people what to do. Like, it's a tough balance to strike, but you kind of got to be that way to self. You got to be your own parent to some extent and like balance how much of it are you handling for yourself.
And I think another part of this too is like kind of coping and processing the fact that you're probably going to start to sound crazy, you know, whether you're trying to help somebody or like give them information, or whether you're like, I don't know, you're trying something new and maybe you want to like run it past somebody. You're just excited and telling them about it. Like we were talking about earlier, like you're going to sound weird.
I was straight up told I was like insane by one of my 1,000 bosses in the Air Force. Nice. Like we were chilling, like one of the higher up bosses too. Like he straight up was like making fun of the YouTube channel and was just like, oh yeah, he's got 15,000 people in China watching his YouTube video. I don't know what's going, like just like making jokes about it. And that hurt. Like I was coming around at this point of like understanding that, hey, people are just not going to get it. So don't try. But that kind of hurt. Like, you know, somebody that's like, I don't know. Because of their position of authority, your brain automatically wants to think that they are intelligent enough to like catch up with what you're doing. Right. And that's a rite of passage for anybody in the military. You get to a certain point where you realize everybody's a human being and everybody's just as equally stupid as the next guy. Like, sorry. I feel like that's not just the military too. I feel like that's just a life lesson you got to learn too. Yeah. We're all just floating around on this earth trying to do our best. Do our best here. But yeah, so you got to get to the point where you understand that, hey, a lot of people are going to think I'm crazy. And I'm okay with it. You got to internalize that, process it, think about it, and be like, look, that's cool. But anybody that thinks I'm crazy, I don't think I need anything from them. Or if you do, then you got to find a better way to explain it. Yes. But, or put yourself in a better situation where you don't need anything from the people that think you're crazy. Yep. You can also use this as a check and balance too. So going to the other side, like, don't just go crazy. You might actually be crazy. So you always want to double check with trusted people that are qualified to give you advice. Go back and listen to the last episode of the podcast 5. and talk to people that you can connect with and that do have authority to give you advice, because sometimes we are crazy. And not every crazy idea that you get needs to be executed. So you do want to be talking through that, but either hire a therapist or find somebody that's qualified to give you advice in that realm. One's cheaper than the other, just saying. Well, not necessarily. But yeah, just understand that like you could be wrong and you need to do the math. We're kind of getting into action steps, but like you need to do the math on like what's going to happen if I'm wrong. Is this such a huge risk that I can't answer that for you, but like you're going to have to answer for yourself. If I'm wrong, how much am I going to lose by pursuing this? Right. So anyway, with that said, we can jump right into the action steps now. So we've talked about a lot already in this podcast. A lot of theory, a lot of high-minded topics, as we normally do. Yes, because we're very high-minded and intelligent. No, we're just very good at like not coming back to Earth. So here we are. We're coming back to Earth to actually give practical advice in reality. Action step number 1. Jennie, take it away. Yes. So action step number 1, we're going to want to clearly outline what we're trying to accomplish in 4 areas. These are like the 4 main areas we think will cover like the most amount of people you're going to encounter in life, and just kind of like how to deal with like them and portraying yourself to them, what you're doing. So there's 4 different ways to understand what you're doing. Like you could just be, I'm going to use a metaphor. Let's just use the woodworking business. So we have a woodworking business. There's 4 different ways that we accomplish things. We have what we're accomplishing in the physical world, which is building furniture. That's what we're doing. That's what the business is doing, building furniture and making money. There's the next thing. We have a squishy goal or your hippie goal of like, we want to bring people together with our furniture.
Correct.
So we are putting things into the world that bring human beings together in relationship and community. So that's our squishy goal of what we're doing. We're also doing things in an emotional way. We want to change the emotions of our customers. We want them to be happy. We want them to
feel good, luxurious.
Again, like overlapping with the community thing, we want them to feel safe. We want them to feel like they can invite people over and have a good time around the furniture products that we sell them. And then the last thing is, how are you actually going to accomplish that? Like, how are you going to do it? Well, for us, it's buying lumber and turning it into something that's worth more than the lumber that we bought. I mean, that's how any business works.
Like what are our action steps? That's the category that like our action steps
right.
fall
So
underneath.
you got to cover those 4 areas. What are you physically doing in the real world? What are you doing in the ether, in the hippie dippy land? What's your hippie goal? And then what's the emotional vibe you're trying to achieve? Whose emotions are you trying to change, or your emotions are you trying to achieve? And how are you going to accomplish that? Like, what are your inputs and what are your outputs?
Right.
So if you can answer those 4 questions with whatever you're trying to do, you just heard our example with the woodworking business, you're going to be able to communicate what you're trying to do much more effectively. So for the people that you do need to explain and have understand what you're trying to do, you can do it very quickly. You've got 4 different versions of your elevator pitch.
Yes.
You've got a news reporter version, which is what you're doing. You got a hippie version. You've got a nerd version, and then you've got like an emotional version. So,
and that should cover like all the people you'll encounter. And like, yeah, if you're talking to somebody who's more of an emotional, conceptual, artistic type person, then your squishy goal of, oh, we want people to come together and be happy and feel good, that's going to resonate with them. And they'll be like, got it, I'm on board. And for the people who are, a little bit nerdier, they have lots of logical reasons, they're very like, I don't know, logical person, they're going to get your like action steps or like what you're doing in the physical world.
Right. So write those things out, and you've got 4 different elevator pitches essentially that you can try on different people. So that's number 1. If you're in a conversation with somebody who it just is not getting it, you're met with a blank stare, try it a different way. And then the next action step, ask for feedback from qualified individuals or trusted sources. Go back and listen to the last episode of the podcast. There's a very narrow set of criteria that we think you should be listening to people from. Hopefully we meet that criteria. You're listening to the podcast. So anyway, but hopefully you're qualifying and validating the advice that you're getting from the proper sources.
Right.
And that's what that's who you should really be trying to get to understand what you're doing, just to check and see if you're crazy or not.
Right. Is that person even worth doing action step number 1 with, kind of a deal?
Right. Action step number 3, you need to accept, internalize, and process the fact that if you're trying to accomplish something, there is a certain portion of the population that is going to think that you're crazy. You want to go vegan? People are going to think you're crazy. You want to go 100% carnivore? People are going to think you're crazy. You want to change career fields? People are going to think you're crazy. You want to change the world? People are going to think that you're crazy. And you just have to come to terms with that. Not everybody is going to understand. I used to say this all the time. I don't know if you echoed the sentiment. I used to say, if people could just see all of the information that I'm seeing, they would come to the same conclusion.
Which some people maybe, yes, but definitely not everybody. You could lay out the best information you have for people and they're still not going to get it or be on board with you.
Right. Or people could just make a different decision, right? We at least pretend that we have free will day to day. So like some people could just choose a different option. So just because you've got your set of information and your unique perspective doesn't mean that everybody else is going to make the same decision as you. So at some level, you shouldn't want to have everybody understand, because the world would be a very boring place if everybody understood each other. Also, like we talked about a little earlier, you need to do a critical like risk analysis of what if you're wrong? What if this thing doesn't work out? If your goal is to go mining for gold in the hills of California, like let's say that's your goal, like, right? Big goals.
Yeah.
But let's say that's your goal. Like, you got to do a risk analysis. What if I'm wrong? What if everybody is right and there is no gold in them hills, and I've wasted all this money, all this time, all this energy, and I've hired all these people to help me mine gold out of the hills of California, and there's nothing there? Can you carry the water on the result of that?
Right. Can you take that financial hit?
Right. Some people can.
Yeah.
more power to him, I guess, if that's what you want to chase.
Sure.
But at the same time, like you gotta accept the fact that like, look, I very well maintain that I could be crazy. Mm-hmm. But understanding that sometimes craziness can be leveraged for good, and sometimes craziness can put you in a worse position than you were before. And again, that's all up to you. That's your risk analysis. You got to figure out what it is for you, what you're comfortable with.
Yes. And I think like this one book that came to mind for both of us that we've read is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. We're holding it up on the camera if you're watching our YouTube video. But I read this, I think, back in like high school. It was on our reading list for something. And it just stuck with me for years and years and years. This story and this concept of like getting people's input and only listening to certain ones along your journey of life, like just how critical and I don't know. For me, it was mind blowing. For other people, they're probably like, "Oh yeah, duh, don't listen to everybody."
Right.
But
if you're gonna get this book, you should know going in that it's kind of like a hippy dippy book.
yes, it is that.
It is fiction.
Squishy.
It is it's a parable. That's a great way to say it.
That is a really good way to put it.
It's a parable of a guy who is trying to do something with his life, but for a large portion of his life, a lot of people around him are like not understanding it. So
he's going on a very physical journey to different places and like encountering new scenarios and whatever. And there's different people all along his way. Some people are giving him input of which way he should go on his journey. And it's very helpful and he should take it to mind. And then he encounters some people that, question him and he should not listen to their questions. And it's kind of just his learning how to trust which people along his journey and why.
Right. Also, another caveat, this is a great book if you're going to read it. We highly recommend, we're talking about it. We highly recommend it, The Alchemist. But if you are crazy, this book will not help you. This book will make you more crazy. So
yes, probably.
This book does not take you off the hook for then double checking to make sure that you're not actually crazy. So
yes. So once you have done, that's why it's action step number 2. So figure out if you're crazy. And if you've deemed that you've double checked whether you're crazy or not, move on to step 3 and maybe read The Alchemist.
Yep. And then lastly, schedule actions that put you closer to your goal. It's pretty straightforward. It's we talk about this all the time. Like you need to schedule it. If you're going to make a big pivotal changes in life, don't happen automatically. It's going to be slow progress over time. You have to constantly schedule yourself and keep yourself disciplined, because you are not going to be able to make a large change or accomplish a large goal unless you're consistently attacking it day after day after day in the calendar.
That's the same reason New Year's resolutions fail most of the time. In one day, somebody's made a decision that they're going to go to the gym every single day for the rest of the year.
That leads us right into next week's podcast title. It is going to be Quit Ignoring Progress.
Yes.
So anyway, thank you so much for listening to the show. We hope you've enjoyed it. Again, we'd love a review. We'd love you to share the show with somebody. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye, guys.